Welcome to the Fight Season podcast here with Jesse Rowe.
What up? What up?
We got our sound engineer Christian in the back, manning the doing
ones and twos.
Yeah, doing what sound engineers do. We got a special guest here, Dante. He's off to the side. You can't see him on camera.
From the Dante Greco show and the Front Row podcast, by the way.
Yeah,
What's up? What's up to all my fans?
Yeah.
Real accomplished.
So what's up, Cap? How are you?
I'm good. So we had UFC Orlando this weekend. We got UFC. Which one is coming up? 282
It's 282
in Vegas this Saturday.
Yeah, and so it was supposed to be Yuri and the epic rematch of Yuri and Glover, but it's going to be what is his name? God, what's the fucking guy's name? Ankalaev versus the Polish Hammer.
Right, versus Jan
Blachowicz. So it'll be good. It's still a good fight, but
yeah, and the card's pretty good too. You got that 18-year-old Rosas Jr.
Is that his debut? Is that
he's making his
debut?
18 years old. So,
but that's undercard. It's not main card, right?
Yeah, undercard. Yeah. And then co-main event, you got Paddy Pimblett versus Jared Gordon. Pimblett always puts on a show. He's still undefeated.
Yeah, that's a big one, obviously. But hopefully,
is Pimblett undefeated? Does anyone know?
In the UFC, I think so.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure he's undefeated.
So as far as I know, I have not seen him lose in the UFC. But
are you my research guy, bro?
I know. Well, I didn't know you were going to bring up Paddy Pimblett right on the spot. I don't think he's been defeated in the UFC.
Yeah, no, I think he's undefeated. Oh, he's 19-3. Yeah, he's not undefeated.
Yeah. Overall, what were your thoughts of UFC Orlando? Obviously, Wonder Boy and Holland was a great main event. It was obviously a great fight, but overall, the card as a whole, what were your thoughts on it?
It was pretty good. For a free card, it's not that bad.
The one thing that stood out to me, other than Holland, just refusing to go down, was how good Sergey Pavlovich looked against Tai Tuivasa. I mean, that wasn't even a competition. That was insane how good he was.
Yeah, no, Ty's a beast, and I thought Ty was going to beat Cyril Gane, so to see Ty get knocked out in the first round,
it was hard to watch.
It was crazy, and his eye was busted. This guy Sergey is a monster.
Yeah, he's going to get it. You did your recap. He's going to get a title shot. It's most likely he's next in line if it's not Gane or Jones to face Ngannou. I think Pavlovich will be one of the guys in line.
Yeah, he's 17-1, and the only guy he's lost to is Alisar Overeem.
But at UFC Orlando, the big thing that happened, or that got a lot of people buzzing, was RDA's trying to make a rematch with McGregor.
Right.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm not into that. These old fighters who were former champions, and I know for a fact they'll never be champion again, they don't really get me too pumped up. Everyone calls out McGregor. They're trying to get that payday. That fight doesn't interest me at all. Even talking about this topic doesn't really interest me.
Yeah.
RDA is a badass fighter.
I don't think it interests Dana White either, to be honest.
Yeah, RDA is a badass fighter, a longtime veteran. He actually passed the record for most hours in the octagon, I think, that night.
Oh, it was during that fight. Yeah, you're right. Yeah.
That fight. So he's an OG in the game. But at this point in his career, he's kind of just like, he had a win versus Brian Barberena, but Brian Barberena is no big.
He was also a minus 400 favorite going into that fight for a reason. So
right.
RDA was
minus 350 or 400.
Yeah.
But yeah, he calls out McGregor, because who doesn't call out McGregor? If me and you are in the UFC, we're going to call out. We're trying to get the biggest payday we can get. I'd rather see McGregor, Michael Chandler. McGregor was beefing with Poirier on Twitter today.
Yeah, so what's going on with Poirier? He has a staph infection.
Right, he has a staph infection, and I guess from his hospital room, he was actually beefing, tweeting, going back and forth with McGregor. I guess he's been in the hospital for 48 hours, a couple of days with the staph infection. It's pretty dirty.
It started with him posting these ominous tweets that he was having some sort of medical issue, that it was starting to get serious, and then McGregor starts trolling, saying, hey, get better soon, sunshine. I forget what he said. But basically trolling him, and Poirier responded by saying, wait your turn, I'm going to slap you around again, something like that.
Right. Yeah, no, Poirier doesn't back down from anyone calling him out. But who really wants to see that? Poirier doesn't back down from anyone calling him out, but who really wants to see that fight a third time? It would be a third time, right?
It'd be fourth. So that was the trilogy, so Poirier's won.
Christian, how many times has McGregor and Poirier fought? 3 times already?
So it would be the fourth fight.
Oh, shit, yeah.
Yeah.
Right. Oh, wow.
So, but
I'm not interested. I don't want to see a fourth. I mean, maybe because the last time they fought is when McGregor broke his leg. So
yeah, that's the only thing.
And I think McGregor was going to get him in that match, actually. I don't know why I had a good feeling he was going to get him. And I don't know what happened. I guess he broke his leg.
Well, he was boxing the bleeding head off of him, if you ask McGregor. So
yeah.
Really quick, just before we started this, I want to get your quick thoughts on it. TJ Dillashaw supposedly has retired, but there's mixed reports on it because Mike Bone tweeted that TJ Dillashaw's team told him that he has not been released by the UFC and is not retired, but then there were other reports saying that he is retiring from the UFC. So what are your thoughts on that? Just where does that hit you? Where does that land for you, just in terms of
He's retired.
TJ's career?
I reached out to his manager, Tiki, former fighter, one of the best managers in the game, Tiki. I texted him, and he said he is retired.
Yeah.
So, and that's, he didn't expand on that, but he's retired, and I think he'll go down as the bantamweight GOAT. Personally, I think he'll be back, and I think he'll definitely be. I don't think he's done. Some people say you retire to get out of the testing pool so you can, USADA's not tracking you down and waking you up at 4 a.m. and bugging you. Just to when you get out of the testing pool, it doesn't mean you're going to go use steroids.
Right.
It just means maybe you just don't want to be tracked and bugged. I know I wouldn't want to be tracked and bugged and woken up at, random times.
Well, that makes sense, especially because the severity of the shoulder injury that he's dealing with is one that's going to probably take over a year for him to fully recover from.
Right.
So he's very likely not going to be back in the octagon until probably 2024, you'd have to imagine. So
how old is Dillashaw? Can we look that up real quick?
I'll look it up really quick.
If I
I
had
can't
to guess,
imagine he's
if I had to-
36, 37.
I would have to say 30, 34, 35.
TJ
But
Dillashaw.
he's retired, so
Yeah, I don't.
I think
He's 36, by the way.
Thank you, Dante. See,
Thank
that's
Dante,
Dante.
our research guy.
Yeah, Dante's doing the job I should be doing.
And Jesse's over here trying to rush these topics through and stuff. I wasn't even done talking about Poirier's staph infection. This guy's just like
Well, go ahead. I mean,
rushing. The staph infection itself is pretty gnarly. But to be a professional athlete and find yourself in the hospital with a staph infection, it's kind of like, by this point in your career, you should kind of have. I can get a staph infection just resting my hand on this dirty ass table. If, you never know where these bacteria and germs are, but you should kind of have your hygienics, on point at this point in your career. It's just shocking that he's an older veteran. I mean, I don't know. I guess staph infection can catch anyone.
I hope you don't mind if I interrupt.
dumb
Isn't
point.
a staph infection kind of a common thing when you're training? When you're doing jujitsu, you're rolling, sweat.
To fighters, to people who always train, they'd be like, "Oh yeah, it's common." But to me, that's just an excuse they use for being dirty as fuck. You can train for 30, 40 years, but if you're taking showers, you're using the proper soap, antibacterial soap, you're taking hot showers 2 to 3 times a day, I think you can train every single day and you won't get staph. If you're dirty as fuck, then you'll probably catch staph. But
I don't know. I don't think you're training enough, brother.
I think training is an excuse. Like, oh, everyone gets staph. No, I used to wrestle all my life. I got ringworm maybe once or twice, but once you figure out how not to get it, you just take hot showers, use the right soap, and.
Well, staph infections, though, it doesn't sound as bad as you might think that if fighters get it all the time, but they can be potentially life-threatening. I mean, they are very serious,
Yeah.
and
You got to get intravenous antibiotics going, and
that's why I saw when Conor tweeted that. I was like, all right, dude, like, I didn't want to make too much of a joke about it because it's like it could potentially be very serious if it's not treated properly. Because apparently he wasn't responding to the antibiotics. That's what apparently his team told Brett Okamoto, is that he's not responding to the antibiotics, and it's.
I like when Conor's bashing this guy in the hospital. I think it's funny, and if I don't think it was too life-threatening. This guy keeps dropping all these other reporters' names. I'm not here to talk about other reporters. I don't give a fuck who tweeted what. We can say ESPN tweeted, MMA Junkie tweeted. I don't want to give these guys specific. They ain't shouting us out. I've broken some major stories in MMA over the last 10 years. I used to work for TMZ Sports, both of us actually. You don't see them dropping Jesse Rowe in their tweets when we get a big interview. But
Well, not yet.
yeah.
Let's.
They would drop Jesse Rowe if they saw him.
That's true. Yeah, they would. That's not good. With Dante was
Most
also
MMA
all
reporters
three of
look
us.
like Jesse Rowe, like as far as
You're,
physique.
I'll say you're the only guy who looks like he could be in the UFC who's also a reporter.
Me or him?
No, Cap.
Yeah, okay. I was about to say that I appreciate it, but no.
Most people wouldn't agree with him.
Well, you were.
Thank you.
You were a high school wrestler. You were pretty.
I wrestled in junior college. I was All-American in junior college.
Okay.
And then I also, in high school, I was league MVP, but no one wants to talk about their high school days. But yeah, I was badass in high school. No football player, no wrestler. No one can see me in high school. And in junior college, it was actually a little bit better.
Did you ever consider taking it to the next level?
Well, I considered. I joined Team Z when I was 23 years old, so that's kind of the time when people start taking MMA seriously. So I just I spent all my 20s and early 30s working for Team Z Sports, and here I am with Inside Fighting now. Check out the backdrop. Can you see that pretty good, Christian? That backdrop? Yeah. So Jesse's formerly of TMZ Sports as well. TMZ. Dante, our research guy here to the side, is formerly of TMZ as well. He was actually in the area. He wasn't. He just stopped by and we gave him a mic.
I'd like to say that you instead chose to get some Ultimate Fighting content.
Ultimate Fighting content.
That's true. Well done, Dante. Yeah.
Thank you.
He's here for the cheesy ass jokes. All right, moves on. Jesse over here has the list. I guess.
Well, I did want to talk about this really quick because obviously Nate's a friend of this company,
right.
And with the RDA call out, it does have a tie back to Nate because Nate was supposed to. Well, because RDA was supposed to fight McGregor. Nate was the guy that filled in and
for RDA
when he broke his foot and he could not make that fight. Nate took it on short notice, 7 days. The rest is history. Nate beats McGregor, but Nate. Actually, a pretty awesome story. This is like the feel-good story of the week, is that Nate got the key to the city of Stockton.
Right.
That was huge. He was in front of the Stockton Kings Arena up north in Northern California, and he got the key from Mayor Kevin. Oh God, what's his name? Mayor Kevin something up in Stockton. That was pretty cool to see.
Mayor Kevin of Stockton.
Yeah.
No, it's long overdue. I think they need to do a statue next for him and his brother Nick. But yeah, key to the city. But what that's super dope, and it's big recognition, but I don't know what a key to the city actually does. I think it just pretty much means the city is super appreciative and grateful for everything.
What it basically means is like you just don't you don't pay for a beer anymore when you go out to a bar. I think that's what the key to the city gets you.
But I want to know what it actually gets you. Like, what is the key to the city? Dante, do you know what a key to the city gets you?
It says here that the key symbolizes the freedom of the recipient to enter and leave the city at will as a trusted friend of city residents.
Bullshit.
Yeah,
It doesn't get you. I mean,
I honestly already forgot what he said. I have no idea what that means.
You're still going to get arrested. It's not no bailout free card. You'll still get tickets, still get pulled over. I mean, I think it's just like a sign of appreciation and nothing more than that. But it's overdue for the Diaz brothers. I think Nick his older brother needs a key to the city. I think they need statues.
They put Stockton on the map. I mean, you can't even talk about Stockton in sports without the Diaz brothers. That's literally what they're known for.
I wouldn't even know of Stockton. Well, I know a lot of Northern California cities, so I don't want to say that. But yeah, they definitely put them on the map.
But Nate, he was also at the same week that it happens. He's no longer on the UFC roster, so he officially cleared free agency with the UFC. So he's officially a free agent.
Right. Well, they gave him his release. So
yeah.
He's officially out. Off the UFC's roster. He's a free agent, and I guess people are just waiting to see who he's going to fight next.
I know that you talked a bit about it in your recap, but I'm just curious in your thoughts on who he should fight, just because that's obviously that's got to be one of the biggest free agent acquisitions for any fight promotion. In general, I know Nate started his own, but that's got to be one of the biggest ones. I don't know. So who do you want to see Nate fight next?
I think it's a beautiful thing when you're a free agent and you're as accomplished and as big of a star as Nate. He could kind of just handpick whoever he wants to fight. Skill-wise, he can hang with the best of them. Nate can fight Canelo. Nate can box Canelo. Nate can box Floyd Mayweather. Or he can go and take a super easy fight and box someone like Jake Paul, Logan Paul, KSI. It all really depends what Nate and his team want to do. Do they want to take, just go make a nice paycheck and take an easy fight? Listen, some people would say no fight is easy. So some people would probably get upset that I'm calling the Paul brothers an easy fight, but I consider them an easy fight. So do they want to take an easy fight and fight like a Jake Paul, a Logan Paul, or does Nate really want to go test himself and box a Canelo Alvarez? Because you put Nate Diaz versus Canelo Alvarez, that's selling 2.5-3 million pay-per-view buys. That is massive.
Yeah.
We all know Jake Paul reportedly, I think he only sold 75K buys on his fight versus Anderson Silva. I'm not too sure. I don't know if they released those numbers or those buys or those stats.
Jake, I remember when this happened a couple, like a month ago or whenever that fight ended, was he sort of blamed the Silva, the claims that Silva was getting knocked out during his sparring sessions leading up to the fight. That was the reason why the pay-per-views didn't sell and it killed ticket sales. Because I remember watching it on TV and you could see they were open just entire sections of seats that were open. That being said, I don't think that would happen if Nate fought Jake Paul. I don't think he would have that problem, just because Silva's been out of the game for so long. It just wasn't a big sell to begin with.
I was at the Anderson Silva Jake Paul fight, and credit to those two. They put on a good fight, and I was actually interested. Maybe they just didn't promote it as good as they should have. Maybe the promoter should have used inside fighting here more to get the word out, because
that's right.
I would have been a big advocate for that fight. You have an all-time legend in Anderson Silva. Some people consider him the greatest of all time. Boxing Jake Paul, that's a huge fight. If I wasn't there, I would have definitely bought the pay-per-view. I would have tuned in. So maybe they could have just promoted it a little more, because a fight like that should have done a couple 100,000 pay-per-view buys. The fact that it only did 75 is a little shocking.
I like that when we start talking about Nate is when this gets lit up. It's almost like it was he's here in spirit or something. Yeah, sure. I'd see, the thing about it is I kind of feel...
If his wife is watching this, he's going to get in trouble. I don't know. Jesse Rowe, the big toker here.
Yeah, no.
Dude, he takes edibles.
My wife has the highest tolerance for weed of anybody I've ever known. She can outsmoke me any day of the week. She takes like 20 milligrams worth of gummies. I need like 2, and I'm flat on my ass. I'm a fucking weakling.
It's his wife.
Yeah. Are we live streaming? But don't you think, I don't know, does Nate have more to lose by fighting somebody like Jake just because he's not, what do you have to gain by beating him? You know what I mean?
Well, Jake, you got to give credit to him. He is 6-0. Even though I was calling him an easier fight, he's easier compared to a Canelo or a Floyd. But he's still by no means, it's not going to be a complete walk in the park. Jake has beaten Tyron Woodley. He has knocked out Ben Askren. He just beat Anderson Silva. So it's not the easiest fight. So yeah, if Nate wins, I mean, Jake Paul has a lot of haters. I'm sure a lot of people would love to see Nate Diaz put Jake Paul on his ass.
Yeah, and he's never fought anybody from the former UFC fighters that are as well practiced in the. Okay, nobody's as well practiced in volume boxing the same way Nate is. I mean, Nate's whole thing for him and his brother Nick, they had that volume punching with their boxing in the UFC that kind of helped them separate themselves from the rest of the sport. Askren and Woodley, obviously Woodley was a good striker, but they weren't.
Volume punching. What do you mean by what the fuck is volume?
Well, they would say this about. I mean, I don't know as much about this. I don't know as much about boxing, but what I have heard Joe Rogan say was that Nate would just try to, instead of hitting you with 100% throughout the course of a fight, he'd hit you with like 60%.
Sorry about that.
You good? He'd hit you with 60% of his punches, but he would just keep touching you, keep touching you, keep touching you. So
yeah, no, they're high volume punchers. They punch a lot.
So I don't think Jake has dealt with somebody like that yet, especially not somebody he's fought from the UFC. So
well, yeah,
I would want to see it.
If Jake fought Nate Diaz, it would be Jake Paul fought Nate Diaz. It would be his hardest opponent by far.
Yeah,
much harder than Anderson Silva. Anderson Silva was 46 years old. Nate Diaz is still in the prime of his career. Some people would disagree with that, but we see athletes perform. I mean, look at Michael Jordan, was still good at 40 years old. There's tons of people, tons of athletes. Bernard Hopkins fought late into his 40s. Floyd Mayweather still does exhibitions, and he looks great, knocking people out. I think Nate's still in his prime. But, yeah, it'd be a very Jake's toughest fight by far.
Yeah.
Big press release today came out. It got emailed to all the media. I don't know. I forwarded it to you.
You sent it to me, yeah.
And we put it on our Instagram that ONE FC is coming to the United States for the first time. Typically, this is the biggest promotion in Asia, and for them now to touch down here in the United States. I mean, I might take a flight to Colorado. It's in Colorado, May 5th.
Yeah, it's in Broomfield, Colorado on May 5th, and they couldn't have picked a better fight to do it, just because it's with Demetrius Johnson versus Adriano Moraes, and obviously this is their third fight. DJ's coming off a big win, the big knee to the head made him champion, and I think it's the perfect fight because you kind of had to pick it makes sense to pick a really popular former UFC star to be sort of like your jumping off point for the United States. I think that was smart on their part.
Well, yeah, and this is a trilogy, so he, DJ's always been the champ, whether he's with the UFC, won championship. So he lost his bout to Moraes.
Wait, didn't he won the last fight, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
He got it back to Moraes. Right. And then now this is a trilogy, so
right.
They're 1-1, and they'll fight again. There was a fight I want to talk about this Friday in Connecticut, Bellator.
Right.
They have their bantamweight Grand Prix. And in the semifinals, well, they have both semifinalists going. You got Patchy Mix versus Magomed But then the other one's super interesting. You got the champion Rafion Stotts versus Danny Sabatello. That fight is extremely exciting because Sabatello is, I think they both only have one loss, but like
Stotts is the champion.
Stotts is the champion.
Yeah, and it's great because we got a couple of interviews with him this week, and they just did some back and forth. The press tour for that fight has been awesome. Yeah. I hope it actually sells tickets because the press tour has been great. Their back and forth, the shit talking that they've been doing were great. They gave a couple of really good quotes to you in a couple of interviews you did.
Yeah, no, they both have great personalities and they're great fighters. So they're not. Most fighters are kind of boring. They're good in the octagon. They're not great on the mic. And then you have people like Nate Diaz, Conor McGregor, who are great in the octagon, great on the mic. Same with these two bantamweights, Rafion Stotts and Danny Sabatello. These guys are hilarious, and they've been talking shit back and forth. I generally think they don't like each other. I think the hate is real, and now they're going to duke it out this Friday night in Connecticut. You know, it's a Bellator promotion. It's going to be super exciting. They're both wrestlers. They both think they're the better wrestler. I talked to them both. Stotts is like a 2-time Division II national champion in wrestler. Or an All-American, but he's accomplished. Sabatello's accomplished. Two wrestlers. I think Sabatello might have better hands. But I'm not going to pick a winner in there. I like them both, and I don't know who's going to win. It's going to be a tough fight.
This is one of those things where just from watching their interviews, it's one of you don't really want either one to lose, just because they're both such great characters.
Right, they're both great characters and great fighters. So
yeah,
that's going to be exciting. I know what I'm doing Friday night. It was actually a holiday party I got to go to here in LA, but prior to the holiday party, I will be watching the Danny Sabatello Rafion Stotts.
And Sabatello has one of the better nicknames in MMA too. The Italian Gangster. That's a great nickname.
He likes that. I think it's so.
I like it.
I think it's okay.
I like it.
Yeah. So like we mentioned earlier, we do have UFC 282 this weekend in Las Vegas. The main event is Jan Blachowicz versus how do you say this other guy's name?
Ankalaev.
I'm the worst with last names. I'm the type of guy I'll call Hazmat.
Yeah. Magomed Ankalaev.
Ankalaev.
Yet another Russian destroyer.
How do you expand on his record here?
Ankalaev.
I like to give people 18-1.
Yeah.
So I knew he had a badass record.
Him and Pavlovich are both like just steamrolling right now. Well, it was supposed to be, as we mentioned earlier, it was supposed to be the rematch of Glover Teixeira and Yuri Prochazka. Obviously, that did not happen. Yuri fucked up his shoulder real bad. It's going to be out for a year. So
Dana White said it was the worst shoulder injury he's ever seen.
But so this fight is interesting because this is a vacated belt interim title. So
at 205.
Yeah. So, in a way, it kind of adds a little extra layer to it, even though, I don't know. I'm looking at the card. Yeah, Paddy Pimblett's cool. The main event's interesting. It's not a great card. It's probably one of the weaker cards that we've had, especially in a year where the cards have been so good lately.
Always good to see Paddy, though.
Yeah.
He's a big name, and he has a big fan base from the UK. And he's facing Jared Gordon. Jared Gordon is no slouch. Robbie Lawler was going to fight this guy, Santiago, but Ponzinibbio. I'm the worst with last names. How do you say this guy's name?
Santiago Ponzinibbio.
Another UFC vet. He's been in the UFC a few years, maybe like 5-6 years. That card got pulled. I think Robbie Lawler got injured. That fight's pulled. Robbie Lawler got injured. This one's good. Darren Till versus
Duplessis. Yeah,
Duplessis. Yeah, that one's good. Number 9 versus.
Yeah, 13. I mean Till needs a win bad, right? He needs to get back on because he was the second coming to a lot of people a few years back, and he's taken a fall from grace in some regard. So this is a big fight for him, and it'll be cool to see Hamzat in his corner though to see if he shows up for that.
You think he's gonna corner him?
I don't know. We'll see. Maybe not in his corner, but he'll be there. Ringside.
Now, to me, this is the fight of the night here. It's going to open up the main card, but Bryce Mitchell, 15-1 versus Ilia Topuria.
Ilia Topuria.
12-0. And this guy, Bryce Mitchell, stud. Been in UFC a long time, and no one's really touched him.
Well, he's more well known right now for debating Joe Rogan on flat Earth theory than he is actually for what he's accomplished in the ring. I don't know if you saw those videos. He posted a bunch of videos about the flat Earth theory, called out Joe Rogan for criticizing flat Earthers. So he's been lobbying to get on Joe Rogan's show to debate him on flat Earth theory.
Right. So he always has interesting Twitter takes.
Yeah, he's a great social media follow if you're okay with that sort of stuff, if you can handle it, because it's
he's super conservative.
Yeah, he's funny though. He's funny.
He's a hunter.
Yeah,
loves his. But that match is interesting. I mean, he's facing an undefeated How do you say his name? Topuria?
Topuria.
Topuria's 12-0,
yeah.
so no joke.
The other interesting, sorry, really quick, the other interesting thing about the Pimblett fight is, that's a tough fight for him because Gordon's one of those guys that he's been through so much in his personal life. I've always felt like guys like that who have been through a lot in their personal lives are always just dangerous in any fight.
Yeah, and the story's never ending, like their life story.
Right.
So he could be, life is full of hills and valleys. He could be primed to be at the top of the hill again with the win versus Pimblett.
But I think he's gonna have to dig deep to win that one, though. I think is what I'm saying. Like, I still think he's gonna win, but he's gonna have to dig deep because Gordon doesn't seem like the kind of guy that just gives up throughout a fight. He's been through other shit that's doesn't compare to going through the hills and valleys of a fight. He's been through it all in his life, so he's a tough one.
The youngest fighter in the history of the UFC to be signed by the UFC, Rowe Rosas Jr. He was signed at 17 years old. He's fighting on this card. He's making his debut. He's 18 now. He's fighting Jay Perrin.
Jay Perrin from the United States.
The worst at pronouncing names. So Rowe Rosas, 18 years old. I like his attitude. He's very confident. He's cocky. He says he's going to be champion one day. He thinks he could take out these champions now. So we'll see how he does.
Got 18 years old, dude. Stepping into the octagon. That's wild.
Yep.
He's also in the UFC video game too.
Oh, dope.
Yeah.
Edmund Shabazian is pretty good. He's fighting on this card. Joaquin Buckley versus Chris Curtis is opening the prelims.
Yeah, it's an okay card. I think.
I'd buy it.
Yeah, I
wouldn't not buy it.
It just sucks that we're not getting the rematch with Glover and Yuri, just because that was such an epic fight.
I'm looking at the card here. If you guys are wondering what I'm looking at on this laptop, it says OSP is on Fight Pass. It was on the early prelims. That's interesting. This guy OSP used to be a title contender. Now he's fighting on Fight Pass. That's a good way to juice up your Fight Pass if you're the UFC. So it gives fans a reason. These are two UFC vets too, Billy Quintillo and Alexander Hernandez. More vets. They're also on Fight Pass.
Yeah.
So if you want to watch some good fighting, I'd tune in early.
All right, well, let's wrap it up. Let's give our picks. Who do you got in the let's just do the top three here. Do you think Rosas
I think
wins
Rosas gets it done.
All right.
I like his tenacity, and I never heard of the other guys.
Yeah, let's not do that. Let's go up to the main card here. Sorry. What is going on with my mouse? All right. Bryce Mitchell, Ilya Topuria.
I'm going to go with Bryce Mitchell.
Yeah, I would say so. It seems like he's a rising star here. Darren Till versus Duplessis.
I'm going to go with this one's kind of tough. I think they're kind of even, but I'm going to go with Duplessis.
Yeah, I'm going to take Till. I just think he's too talented. I think he's overdue for a win, to be honest.
I think Till's too hit or miss. He's too his career is just like up and down. I think he's due for another loss actually.
Lawler's on the card.
That fight was pulled. See,
it was. Okay. Yeah, I was not aware. All right, Pimblett versus Gordon.
I'm going to go with the upset. I'm going to go with Gordon.
Wow, I was considering it, but
because like you said, there's a lot of life trials, tribulations. I think it's primed him. He's a veteran. I don't think Pimblett's faced a guy as tough as this, and I think he is on a two-fight win streak. Maybe
I think Pimblett pulls it out, but would not be surprised if Gordon wins. I just think this is going to be probably a decision fight, or he's going to have to find a submission in order to pull him out, because he'll be outpointed and he'll have to find a submission to win. That would be my prediction. So I'll take Pimblett. And then we got the main event, the Polish Hammer, Jan Blachowicz versus Magomed Ankalaev.
Right.
To me, this is probably one of the easiest picks of the night. I'm taking Ankalaev. I think he's kind of due to become the champion. I think if it wasn't going to be the title fight that we had, this guy made sense to be next in line, so I'll take Ankalaev.
This fight, I'm not too interested. I know they're both. It's for an interim title. I'm gonna go with. I always like to go with the guys with the great records because they haven't really lost much in their career. I'm gonna go with Ankalaev too. But I miss when the 205 division was exciting. I miss the John Jones days, the Daniel Cormier days. Rest in peace, Anthony Rumble Johnson. I miss those days. This new 205 weight division, it's kind of lacking. It's bland. Dominic Reyes was on a four-fight losing streak. I think next up in this division is where we need to see Jamal Hill. Jamal Hill's a beast, and we'll see him work his way up to one day be a 205 champ. Because these names, they're not doing it for me. So you asked me to pick a winner here. I can really give, two shits who wins this fight. I could probably take them both. Nice guys.
Oh,
though.
wow.
I like nice people, but
So if you just were in a wrestling match with these guys, you think you'd
light work. The only ones who can see me in wrestling are Cormier and John Jones because he's long and John Jones got that length. But anyways, thanks for joining us on the Fight Season podcast.
Thank you.
I hope you enjoyed it. This guy's pretending like he knows MMA.
I don't know shit.
It's pretty fun to fucking listen. He does a pretty good job, though. But anyways, thanks for joining us on the Fight Season podcast, and we'll see you next Monday, all right? Follow us on Instagram. Check out InsideFighting.com. And thank you to our sound engineer, Christian, and Dante Greco here for joining us.
With the color commentary.
Peace, guys.
Peace out.